Gentlemen, let's have a brutally honest conversation, not a soft one, not a politically correct one, not the one society wants you to swallow and smile through, but the one you wish someone had told you earlier, before you got emotionally bruised and spiritually exhausted in the name of being a good man. Because the truth is, there are certain behaviors a woman can show in a marriage that no man, regardless of how forgiving or loyal he is, should ever accept. Love is not a license for respect. Marriage is not a permission slip for manipulation, and no vows were ever meant to be used as handcuffs to keep a man locked in emotional chaos. So listen carefully. If your wife is doing these 5 things, and I mean consistently, repeatedly, without remorse, then it's time to stand up, not stay stuck. 1. She publicly disrespects you. A woman who humiliates her man in public doesn't love him. She controls him. If she's cutting you down in front of your friends, if she's mocking you in front of your family, if she's interrupting you in front of your children to assert her dominance, then she's not your partner. She's your competitor. And marriage is not a battleground for a go. A woman who respects her man builds him quietly and protects his dignity publicly. If your wife is treating you like a joke in the presence of others, leave, because public disrespect is not a phase. It's a mindset, and it rarely changes without consequences. 2, she uses intimacy as a weapon. Let's not pretend this isn't happening in modern marriages. A man comes home after working hard, after carrying weight silently, hoping to connect with his wife. And what does he find? Cold shoulders, silent treatments, strategic rejections, not because of emotional pain, but because she knows it's the one area where she can punish you without ever raising her voice. When a woman starts using her body to manipulate the emotional climate of the marriage, it is not love, it's power play. And a man who stays in that environment slowly starts doubting his worth. He starts tiptoeing around her moods. He stops asking for connection and starts living like a prisoner in his own home. That's not marriage. That's emotional warfare. Leave. 3, she undermines your masculinity at every turn the moment a woman starts telling you what kind of man to be without understanding the burden you carry. That's the moment she's no longer with you. She's above you. If she constantly questions your decisions, if she rolls her eyes when you speak with conviction, if she criticizes the way you lead, provide, protect, then know this: she doesn't see you as her equal. She sees herself as your superior. No healthy relationship survives when a woman tries to remake her husband into a version that pleases her control mechanisms. A man has a right to be heard, respected, and followed, especially when he leads with wisdom and care. But if she keeps cutting your legs out from under you with backhanded comments, passive-aggressive insults, and subtle emasculation, then you're not a husband, you're her project, and you need to walk. 4, she celebrates your failures and resents your success. This one is quiet but deadly. You lose a job, she sighs in satisfaction. You miss a goal, she smirks in silence. You break down, she doesn't lift you up. She blames you for falling. But the moment you win, the moment you rise, the moment you glow with quiet confidence, she grows colder, distant, jealous. She'll either try to bring you down or dismiss your success like it means nothing. That is not a wife. That is a rival in disguise. If your victories threaten her instead of inspiring her, she was never with you in the first place, because a real wife doesn't compete with her man. She compliments him. She celebrates his glow because she knows it reflects back on both of them. So if you're growing and she's resenting it, it's time to go 5. She makes you afraid to be yourself. The ultimate test, the final deal breaker. Do you walk on eggshells in your own home? Do you filter your tone, your words, your decisions just to keep the peace? Do you feel more free at work or in your car than you do next to the woman you married? Then that's not a marriage. That's psychological imprisonment. A man should never fear his own home. He should not need permission to express himself, to breathe without judgment, to relax without being dissected. If your wife has turned you home into a courtroom where everything you say is analyzed and everything you do is held against you, if she makes you feel like the problem for having needs, standards, or emotions, then you're not loved. You're controlled, and no man, no matter how strong or loyal or patient, from day one can thrive in that environment without losing himself. So leave. Let me say this loud and clear. Leaving does not mean you're weak. It means you refuse to slowly in silence. You're not selfish for wanting peace. You're not wrong for wanting respect. You're not cruel for wanting to feel safe in your own marriage. Some women don't need healing. They need consequences. Some women don't want growth. They want dominance. And some women will only respect a man who's strong enough to walk away from what destroys him, even if he once loved it. So to the man watching this right now, if your wife is doing these 5 things not once, not twice, but as a pattern, leave her, not to punish her, not to get revenge, but to protect your soul, your purpose, and your peace. Because there's a difference between a woman who challenges to grow and a woman who slowly kills your spirit. Choose wisely and never forget who you are. Let's talk about something you've probably felt before, but maybe never put into words. You keep telling yourself you're a kind person. You pride yourself on being available, dependable, generous. You think being the bigger person means you should always forgive, always stay calm, always be understanding, no matter what someone else says or does. And while kindness is powerful, beautiful, even transformative, there's a line you keep crossing. That line is where kindness ends and self-betrayal begins. When you're kind at the expense of your self-worth, it's no longer noble, it's no longer admirable, it's dangerous, because the moment your kindness starts requiring silence when you need to speak, flags from day one, or tolerance when you're being disrespected, or presence when you're being mistreated, you're not being kind, you're abandoning yourself. And that's not strength, that's not love, that's fear. That's conditioning. That's a pattern you picked up somewhere along the way that told you your job is to make everyone else comfortable. Even it means making yourself invisible. You know what that looks like? You say yes when your body screams no. You keep your mouth shut to avoid making things awkward. You accommodate people who wouldn't even consider your needs. You apologize when you haven't done anything wrong. You stay in conversations, relationships, environments that drain you just to avoid being called rude, cold, or difficult. And slowly, day by day, you lose touch with your own truth. You disconnect from your inner voice. You start living for other people's comfort instead of your own clarity. That is what happens when you weaponize your own kindness against yourself. You were not put on this earth to be liked by everyone. You were not created to be a mirror for other people's comfort. You were not born to shrink, bed mold, or perform your way into love or acceptance. And if being kind has started to cost you your boundaries, your peace, your voice, you're not being kind. You're being complicit in your own mistreatment. Because here's the truth, people will always take what you allow. They will keep crossing the line if you never draw it. They will keep asking more of you if you never say it's enough. And they will keep benefiting from your kindness while for in silence if you never learn how to stop betraying yourself in the name of being good. You've got to understand something about energy. What you tolerate teaches people how to treat you. If you continue to overextend, overgive, over-apologize, you are sending a clear message. You are available for emotional labor, for disrespect, for one-sided relationships. And no amount of love, patience, or understanding will teach someone how to value you if you haven't first modeled that by valuing yourself. That's why boundaries matter. Not because they keep people out, but because they keep you in alignment, because they keep your kindness from becoming your weakness, because they protect the version of you that is grounded, honest, and whole, the version of you that doesn't need to be everything for everyone, the version of you that finally realizes that being kind does not mean being a doormat. And maybe you were taught that saying no is selfish, that setting limits makes you mean or hard to love, that your worth is directly tied to how useful or agreeable you are. But here's the thing, they lied. The people who raised you, the culture that conditioned you, the relationships that rewarded your silence, they were wrong. Because true kindness is rooted in authenticity, not in self-sacrifice. And if your kindness is constantly costing you your voice, your truth, your well-being, it's not kindness, it's a performance. And it's time to drop the act. You've got to get real about what you're allowing. every time you respond with softness to cruelty, every time you stay quiet in the face of disrespect, every time you continue giving to someone who only takes, you are not just hurting yourself, you're reinforcing the very behavior you wish would stop. And what you allow, you repeat. What you repeat becomes normal, and what becomes normal becomes your life. So if you don't like the way someone's treating you, you have to ask yourself, what have I been allowing? Where have I been too available, too understanding, too forgiving without accountability? Where have I prioritized their comfort over my truth? Where have I silenced my needs to avoid rocking the boat? Because here's what most people won't tell you: not everyone deserves your kindness. Not everyone deserves your energy. Not everyone gets a front row seat in your life because they've known you for years, or because they have a title like friend or partner or family. Titles mean nothing without behavior, and love without respect is manipulation. You are not here to heal people who hurt you. You are not required to keep being nice to people who repeatedly disrespect your boundaries. And you are not obligated to explain your worth to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. What you need is courage. The courage to disappoint people who benefit from your self-abandonment. The courage to be misunderstood when you start standing up for yourself. The courage to risk being called difficult, dramatic, or selfish because you finally choose yourself. That's not cruelty. That's clarity. That's self-respect. That's the beginning of healing. When you stop betraying yourself, you stop leaking energy. You stop second-guessing your worth. You stop handing out access to people who haven't earned it. And most of all, you stop living in a constant state of emotional debt, giving and giving and giving, hoping one day it'll be enough. Enough to make them see you. Enough to make them love you. Enough to finally feel worthy. But worth doesn't come from overgiving. It comes from knowing when to stop. You have to stop abandoning yourself just to avoid abandonment. You have to stop giving more to prove your love. You have to stop performing kindness as a survival mechanism. Real kindness is not about keeping the peace. It's about standing in truth. It's about honoring yourself while also being decent to others. It's about knowing that your voice, your needs, your boundaries are just as valid as anyone else's. And you don't owe anyone a diluted version of yourself just to keep them comfortable. So start saying no, even when your voice shakes. Start stepping back, even when it hurts. Start protecting your energy like it's the most precious thing you have, because it is. You are allowed to be kind and still have boundaries. You are allowed to care deeply and still walk away. You're allowed to love someone and still say, this isn't working for me. That's not betrayal. That's honesty. And let me be very clear, you are not broken for wanting more. You are not wrong for expecting respect. You are not asking too much by needing mutuality, effort, consistency. That's not high maintenance. That's called having standards. And anyone who tells you otherwise is just upset that you've stopped playing small for their benefit. You're done with that. Done shrinking, done people pleasing, done being kind to everyone but yourself. Because the truth is, the relationship you have with yourself is the tone for every other relationship in your life. If you keep betraying yourself, everyone else will follow your lead. But when you choose to honor your own needs, when you set limits, when you speak up, you change the game. You stop performing kindness and start embodying it. You stop allowing disrespect and start demanding alignment. You stop betraying yourself and start becoming the person you were always meant to be. Strong-willed, clear, kind, but not naïve, loving, but not desperate, giving, but not depleted. And no matter who doesn't like this new version of you, trust me, it's the most powerful, authentic, unshakable version yet. You wake up every morning with something more valuable than money, more precious than anything you own. And yet most people give it away without even realizing they've surrendered it. It's your peace, your emotional state, your mental clarity, the way your heart beats in rhythm with your purpose, that peace inside you, that inner calm, that sense of being centered and grounded isn't just something nice to have. It's sacred. It's your foundation. And when you give it away to people who don't deserve it, when you allow the chaos, the noise, the drama, the toxicity to live rent-free in your mind, you're letting something wholly be handled like it's disposable. And maybe you were raised to think that keeping the peace meant sacrificing your own. Maybe you were taught that being agreeable was more important than being honest. Maybe you've been conditioned to believe that keeping other people comfortable matters more than protecting your energy. But I'm telling you right now, your peace is not up for negotiation. It's not a luxury. It's not selfish. It's your responsibility. You cannot live the life you were meant to live if you keep giving the best parts of to people who thrive on dysfunction. Peace is not found in the absence of noise. It's found in the refusal to let that noise into your spirit. It's not something that happens by accident. It's something you fight for, something you build, something you protect like your life depends on it. Because it does. Because the moment you lose your peace, you lose your clarity, you lose your focus, you lose your ability to listen to your own intuition. And when you lose that, you start making decisions based on pressure, on guilt, on fear, on someone else's expectations. You start saying yes when you want to say no. You start staying silent when you need to speak up. You start shrinking yourself to avoid offending someone who has no problem disrespecting your boundaries. And every time you do that, every time you betray yourself to avoid conflict, you lose a little more of your peace. And the more you lose, the more you start to forget who you are. You start to believe that anxiety is your natural state. That being on edge is just how life is. That walking on eggshells is normal. But it's not. That's not how you were meant to live. You were meant to live from a place of calm, from a place of intention, from a place of strength. And you can't do that when your soul is in a constant state of reaction. You can't access your power when your nervous system is always in survival mode. You cannot lead, grow, or thrive when you are consumed by everything and everyone around you. So you have to start guarding your peace the way you would guard your home if someone tried to break in. From day one, you would not let a thief walk in and ransack your house without a fight. So why do you let people walk in and rob you of your peace? You have to stop giving energy to every little offense, every rude comment, every passive-aggressive jab. You have to stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You have to stop arguing with people who are only interested in being right, not in understanding. Your peace is not a battleground. It's a sanctuary. And if someone keeps pulling you into chaos, you have to ask yourself, why are you still opening the door? You are not required to invite dysfunction because it's familiar. You are not obligated to stay in conversations that leave you drained. You are allowed to walk away. You're allowed to say no. You're allowed to block access. You are allowed to unfollow, unsubscribe, disconnect, disengage, not out of anger, but out of alignment, because you know what your peace costs. And once you know that, you stop giving it away to anyone who hasn't earned the right to hold it. And let's be honest, protecting your peace is going to upset some people. It's going to trigger those who benefited from your lack of boundaries. It's going to confuse those who got used to the old version of you, the version that stayed quiet, that overextended, that made everything okay no matter what it cost you. But you are no longer that version. You've grown. You've changed. And with growth comes disruption, not because you're trying to cause harm, because you're finally choosing yourself. And choosing yourself is not selfish. It's sacred. It's the most honest thing you can do, because no one else is going to protect your peace for you. No one else is going to prioritize your well-being. That is your job. That's your responsibility. And when you start living from that place, when you start making decisions based on peace, not pressure, your entire life starts to shift. You start to breathe differently. You start to walk into rooms with confidence, not anxiety. You start to recognize red flags faster. You stop trying to fix everyone. You stop trying to control everything. And in that release, in that letting go, you find a deeper strength than you ever knew you had. You don't owe anyone access to your peace just because they demand it. You hear red flags from one. You don't have to stay in spaces that drain you just because you've been there a long time. You don't have to explain your healing to people who are committed to their own dysfunction. Your peace is not something you earn through perfection. It's something you choose through intention, through discernment, through courage. So ask yourself, where are you giving away your peace? Who or what is stealing your calm? And why do you still allow it? Is it fear, guilt, obligation, habit? Whatever it is, it's time to face it. Because until you do, your life will keep feeling like it's not fully yours, like you're being dragged through days that don't belong to you, like your heart is heavy for reasons you can't explain. But you can explain it. It's because you've been absorbing energy that doesn't belong to you. It's because you've been prioritizing harmony over honesty, day one. It's because you've been betraying your inner voice to keep the outer peace. But real peace doesn't come from people pleasing. It doesn't come from avoiding conflict. It doesn't come from silence. It comes from alignment, from authenticity, from knowing who you are and what you will and will not allow. It comes from being brave enough to disappoint others so you can stop disappointing yourself. It comes from trusting that the people who are meant for you won't be threatened by your boundaries. They'll be grateful for them. You, Ray one, you're allowed to change the rules. You're allowed to say, I used to accept this, but I don't anymore. You're allowed to outgrow dynamics that once felt comfortable. You're allowed to protect your peace, even if it means being misunderstood. Because at the end of the day, no one else is living your life. No one else is waking up with your thoughts, your anxiety, your regrets, your dreams. That's all you. And if you don't protect your peace, flags from day one, you're handing the steering wheel of your life to someone else. So protect it like it's sacred, because it is. Protect it like it's fragile, because it can be. Protect it like your life depends on it, because the quality of your life absolutely does. You can love people from a distance. You can forgive people without letting them back in. You can be kind without being accessible. You can be generous without being drained. You can be open without being available to everything. And you can absolutely say, this is where I draw the line, not because I don't care, because I care too much about myself. That's not arrogance. That's awareness. That's maturity. That's peace. And once you find it, once you start living from that place, nothing is ever the same again. You stop chasing things that were never meant for you. You stop performing for love. You stop negotiating your worth. You stop trying to explain your soul to people who only hear with judgment. And instead, you come home to yourself. You come back to center. One, you come back to peace. And you protect it, not out of fear, but out of power, because you finally understand what it's worth. Let's talk about something that most people don't understand until it's too late. It's not the apology that changes the relationship. It's not the words, the sorry, or the sudden promises that everything will be different next time. It's not the flowers, the texts from day one, or the emotional confessions after they've already broken you. It's what you do next that speaks the loudest. And that's where self-respect walks in. Because when someone has crossed the line one too many times and you've given chance after chance, the strongest move you make is not to wait for another apology. It's to act like someone who finally respects herself. Self-respect is not loud. It's not dramatic. It doesn't scream or demand attention. It's the quiet confidence in your own worth. It's the decision you make in private to walk away from what no longer serves you. It's the refusal to let someone who has shown you who they are keep performing their same tired act while you sit front row, pretending it's love. There comes a point where no amount of "I'm sorry" can cover the weight of repeated disrespect. There comes a point where your silence, your absence, your boundaries say more than their rehearsed apologies ever could. You teach people how to treat you not with your words, but with your standards. And when someone breaks your trust, when they manipulate your kindness, when they toy with your emotions like your heart is some game they get to play and pause and restart, how you respond matters. Do you lower the bar just to keep them in your life? Do you convince yourself it's not that bad because you're afraid of being alone? Or do you rise? Do you hold your ground? Do you respect yourself enough to say, I don't need to hear another apology. I need to see something real, or I'm done. See, the people who value you won't keep putting themselves in a position where they have to apologize for hurting you. The people who truly care about you won't leave you questioning yourself, your worth, or your sanity. And the ones who do, The ones who keep cycling in and out, showing up when they feel like it, disappearing when it's hard, loving you on their terms and blaming you when it falls apart, those people don't need more understanding. They need accountability. And sometimes the only way to give that accountability is by removing yourself from the situation together. But that takes guts. That takes self-respect. That takes realizing you don't need closure from the person who hurt you. You don't need their apology to move forward. You don't need their approval to heal. Because the moment you start respecting yourself is the moment you stop settling for half-hearted love and full-time excuses. You stop entertaining people who only show up when it's convenient. You stop explaining your boundaries to people committed to crossing them. You stop making space in your life for behavior you wouldn't want for your sister, your daughter, your best friend. We grow up learning to forgive. And yes, forgiveness is powerful, it's healing. But forgiveness is not the same as tolerance. Forgiveness doesn't mean you keep letting someone in who keeps causing damage. Forgiveness is for your peace. Self-respect is for your future. And when the two are in conflict, you don't choose one over the other. You learn to hold both. You forgive in your heart, but you choose to walk away with your head held high. You release the bitterness, but you don't open the door for more of the same. You say, I see you, I understand you, but I will no longer allow you to rewrite the story of my worth with your behavior. There's a version of you that's been waiting to emerge, the version done accepting crumbs from people who feast elsewhere, the version that doesn't flinch when someone threatens to leave, the version that knows she brings value to the table, and if someone can't see it, that's their loss. That version of you doesn't wait around for another apology. She doesn't ask for clarity where there's only confusion. She doesn't replay the past hoping to change the ending. She writes a new chapter. She closes the door and locks it, not out of spite, but out of survival. And let me tell you something that might sting a little. You don't earn respect by being agreeable. You don't gain loyalty by avoiding conflict. You don't get lasting love by sacrificing yourself, respect in hopes that someone will finally wake up and treat you better. You get walked on, you get used, you get drained, and then you get left empty, tired, questioning everything you believed was real. That's the price of making someone else your project. That's the cost of confusing empathy with enablement. That's the danger of thinking your love can change someone who doesn't want to change themselves. Apologies are easy. They're just words. But actions are truth. And sometimes the truest action you can take is to walk away, to put distance between you and the chaos, to say with every step, I'm done choosing people who don't choose me. That doesn't mean you hate them. It doesn't mean you wish them harm. It means you're finally choosing yourself. It means your time, your energy, your love, your attention. It's no longer up for grabs by anyone who hasn't earned it. And here's the beautiful thing that happens when you start honoring yourself, respecting your life starts to shift. You stop over-explaining. You stop people-pleasing. You stop watering dead plants and start nourishing your own roots. You attract different energy because you give off different energy. You become someone who is no longer available for cycles, for confusion, for crumbs. You don't beg for answers. You don't chase closure. You become your own clarity. Self-respect is walking away when everything in you wants to stay. It's not replying to the message that you know is a trap. It's blocking the number you once memorized by heart. It's taking a deep breath and deleting the photos, the threads, the reminders. It's trusting that what's meant for you will never require you to abandon yourself. And it's remembering that you were whole before them, and you'll be whole again without them. Don't confuse history with destiny. Just because you've invested time in someone doesn't mean you owe them your future. Just because you loved them deeply doesn't mean you have to stay where you're not seen. And just because they say sorry doesn't mean the cycle won't repeat. How many times have you accepted an apology just to end up right back in the same pain a few weeks later? That's not growth. That's a pattern. And the only way to break it is to do something different, to respect yourself enough to say, I'm no longer waiting for you to change. I'm changing how I respond. You are not hard to love. You are asking for too much. You are not too sensitive, too emotional, too intense. You are just someone who has finally realized her value. And when you live in that space, you stop trying to convince people to see your worth. You stop performing for affection. You stop chasing apologies and start choosing peace. So the next someone comes back with, I'm sorry, pause. Don't rush to forgive. Don't rush to fix. Ask yourself, what have their actions shown me? What have they consistently demonstrated about who they are? And what does it say about me if I keep accepting less than I deserve? Your self-respect is not negotiable. It is not conditional. It is not something you abandon to make someone else comfortable. It's the foundation of everything in your life, your peace, your confidence, your future. Day one. And when you protect it, when you live by it, when you honor it, you don't need apologies. You don't need explanations. You don't need anything but the knowing inside you that says, I'm worth more than this, and I'm done proving it